going to actually start with Senator Henderson. If you want to come forward, we're going to do Senate Bill 902 first, and you can start whenever you're ready. We may stop you to do to establish a quorum if we need to.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and committee members. For the record, Mike Henderson, State Senator from the 3rd Senatorial District, presenting Senate Bill 902, non-opioid pain management. Senate Bill 902 is designed to address the rising concerns surrounding the opioid misuse and abuse by focusing on providing alternatives to opioid prescriptions. Senate Bill 902 is a straightforward bill. The health benefit plan cannot deny coverage of a non-opioid in favor of an opioid prescription, require the person to try an opioid drug before they provide coverage for the non-opioid, or require a higher level of cost share for the non-opioid versus opioid. A similar bill was heard last year in this committee and was voted out 6-0, and a House companion bill was heard earlier this month and came out unanimous over on the House side. By reducing reliance on opioids, this legislation is a proactive step in the fight against the opioid epidemic. We've all heard about it. I think there's been billions of dollars in lawsuits with the opioid epidemic that transpired. I actually have a personal thing that happened with this with a young man from my district, about a 210-pound athlete, very good, got an injury, got hooked on opioids. When he passed away, he was probably 155 pounds at the most. So I've seen some of this firsthand and have known him and his family for a long time. Give you just a few statistics if I can real quick. In 2023 in Missouri, there were 1,456 opioid-related overdose deaths. This accounts for 77.1% of all drug overdose fatalities. On average last year as a country, we lost more than 220 Americans every day to an opioid-related drug overdose. In Missouri, there were 47 opioid prescriptions handed out for every 100 people. 90% of all surgical patients in the U.S. are prescribed an opioid, and I can speak to that too. When I had shoulder surgery, that's what they gave me. I took one and decided to never take it again because it made me feel so bad. And with that, I would be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Senator. We're going to pause real quick and establish a quorum, and I think we're going to go into executive session, so I apologize, but I want to make sure we have somebody here to vote and get these bills voted out before we proceed. So I appreciate your patience. Barb, please call the roll.
Senators Crawford.
Here.
Gregory. Here. Brown. Here. Huff. McCreary. Here. Mosley. Trent.
We do have a quorum. I make a motion that we go into executive session. Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no, and the ayes have it. I make a motion, or I move that we take up Senate Bill 834. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. This is my bill that we heard last week that is the Uniform Mortgage Modification Act, that would just say if you modify a first mortgage, if there's a second mortgage behind it, it lays out, basically just makes clear that that first mortgage stays in the first mortgage position even though we've modified the loan. So I make a motion that we vote Senate Bill 834 out of committee do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Barb, please call the roll.
Senators Crawford.
Aye.
Gregory. Aye. Brown. Aye. Huff. McCreary. Aye. Mosley. Trent.
By your vote of 4-0, you have do passed Senate Bill 834. I now make a motion that we take up Senate Bill 835. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. This is also my bill that we heard last week dealing with garnishments and also with the bankruptcy, increasing the bankruptcy exemptions. And I do have a committee substitute. You should have all gotten it. Was that? Ending in .04. You should. Right. So what we're doing is we are taking Senator Washington's bill that we heard last week as well, adding it with mine. I have talked to her last week about this. She was fine with doing it. The only thing we did, she had an exemption for $50,000 for the homestead. I had $30,000, so we hit the middle at $40,000, added the numbers together. Nothing else changed from what I presented last week. So, I make a motion that we adopt the substitute. Do I have a second? I have a second. Is there any discussion on the substitute? Hearing none. All those in favor of adopting the substitute? Did I say that already? Sorry, I think I already did that. I now move that we vote Senate Bill 835 with Senate Committee substitute out of committee do pass. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Barb, please call the roll.
Senators Crawford.
Aye.
Gregory. Brown. Huff. McCreary. Mosley. Trent.
5. By your vote of 5-0, you have do pass Senate Committee substitute for Senate Bill 835. I make a motion we go out of executive session. I have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. And we're out of executive session. Senator, I think you concluded, and now we're ready. Is that correct? And we are ready for testimony in favor of Senate Bill 902. Please come forward. Oh, I'm sorry. I did not allow time for that. Sorry, I got distracted. Senator McCreary.
Thank you. Could you repeat what you said about the number of Americans who die by opioid?
Here are the statistics I
Yeah.
came up with. I'll do them all real quick again if that
Yeah.
helps you a little bit. In 2023 in Missouri, there were 1,456 opioid-related overdose deaths. This accounts for 77.1% of all drug overdose fatalities. On average last year as a country, we lost more than 220 Americans every day to an opioid-related drug overdose. In Missouri, there were 47 opioid prescriptions for every 100 people. And 90% of all surgical patients in the U.S. are prescribed an opioid.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for the bill sponsor? I'll get back on track here. Seeing none, first up, who would like to come forward first in favor of Senate Bill 902? Just a reminder to everybody to please fill out a witness form and let us know who you are as a first order of business, please. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, David Winton here on behalf of BJC Healthcare, the REACH Foundation, and the National Association of Social Workers. I want to go on record and support the legislation. Thank Senator Henderson for bringing it forward, and thank this committee for their favorable vote last year. I don't know that there's a whole lot to add on top of what Senator Henderson said. We see this as a really significant issue and believe that this legislation will go far to help people have an alternative so that they don't have to risk getting addicted to opioids. And the one thing I do want to add to the conversation is it doesn't take very long for somebody to develop an addiction to an opioid. The studies are really clear, they're well documented, that just 2 to 3 days taking an opioid medication can lead to a misuse of the drug and an addiction. And so we think this is really important because at the end of the day, the folks that are going to get addicted, this isn't going to be a normal healthcare issue. They're going to spiral through. They're going to lose their job. They're going to lose their family in many cases. They're not going to have private insurance anymore because they're going to lose the source of that insurance, which is generally a person's job. And so that will end up falling to the state and to the federal government and to charities to pick up the cost of that. So thank you so much for the opportunity. Appreciate your time.
Questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for
Senator.
testimony. Next up in favor of Senate Bill 902.
Madam Chairman, Becky Lohman, registered lobbyist for Prevent Ed. We're a prevention resource center that focuses on substance abuse education that serves the St. Louis region. Wanted to go on record in support.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 902?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Elizabeth Grace Riley here, registered lobbyist for the Missouri chapter of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists and the Missouri Society of Anesthesiologists. We would like to go on record in support of this bill. Thank you.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up in favor of Senate Bill 902. Seeing no more in favor, is there anyone here wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 902? Please come forward at this time.
This morning or afternoon? It's afternoon, I guess. Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman. Hampton Williams with the Missouri Insurance Coalition. We're not testifying in opposition to the spirit of the bill, but specifically a portion regarding the cost-sharing language. We've worked with the sponsor, and we're in discussions with how to address that concern. After the presentation last year, we went back and talked with members. We're unaware of any insurance carrier that is mandating that people take opioids versus non-opioids. What we learned was that many already offer generic non-opioids, either therapeutics or pharmacologicals, that address this specific concern. The concern we voiced last year had to do with specific language that we believed would mandate coverage for a specific drug, and the FDA approved a pharmacological drug to address acute pain. And it was a novel determination. It was the first drug approved for that purpose that was a non-opioid. And so the language that we've tried to work on was to identify that there are other alternatives available, there are other generics available, and we just want to make sure that we're not, again, mandating coverage for a specific type of medication, but that we're allowing plans to, again, provide both these non-opioid alternatives, but also be sensitive to costs. And so with that, we'll continue to work with the sponsor. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, Senator Mosley?
I really was confused on everything you were saying. Couldn't follow what you were saying. But I think you were talking about generic versus non-generic. What's the other word? Branded medications. So are you saying that you want the patient to have to do the generic versus brand?
Yes, that if a formulary plan identifies the use of a generic and that is capable of addressing that patient, that plans are typically designed in a kind of a step system to address consumers' needs or patients' needs. If generics are satisfactory to address their concerns, then those work. If they have to be advanced to other alternatives, they can. But a concern that we had with this language was that it would require kind of starting at a brand name pharmacological, which does have a little higher price.
Okay. My concern is that with what you're saying, I have a friend that's been dealing with stage 4 cancer for a very long time, and she's a lot of times they'll try to give her generic brand, and she's very much against it and wants to be able to do the brand because it's more effective for her. So I would be in opposition of requiring patients to do a generic versus brand.
Further questions for the witness? Senator McCreary?
Thanks for being here. So can you give me some examples of generic non-opioid pain relievers that your clients would want to be the first step?
Well, I don't have a formulary list for the clients. I do have a list of other non-opioid alternatives that I'll be happy to submit, and I will be happy to admit that I would not be able to likely pronounce all of the names competently, so to save myself the embarrassment, but I'll be happy to submit this to the
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next up in opposition to Senate Bill 902.
Thank you, Senator.
Madam Chair, Shannon Cooper today representing America's Health Insurance Plans. We want to go on record in slight opposition. We agree with 99% of what the senator said on these and his health plans. We don't force people to take opioids. In fact, we take a lot of criticism for prior auth most opioid drugs because they meet the criteria of of a drug classification that's relatively inexpensive, highly addictive, easy to be abused, and has a value on the black market. So we consider ourselves leaders in the battle to make sure that our members don't get addicted to opioids. The issue with this bill is there's language in there that steers us to where we don't have the ability to use our prior authorization or use formularies for our business partners who pay for these plans. We've visited with the senator. We've provided him language, as Hampton said. So I think we're close to being where we need to be on this. Again, we don't ever want to force anybody who doesn't want one to take an opioid drug. Be happy to answer any questions. And Senator McCreary, like Hampton, I could not pronounce some of these drugs, but I think the classification is NSAIDs is a classification of drugs that are non-opioids but are used to deal with pain.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your
Thank you,
testimony.
Madam Chair.
Next up, in opposition to Senate Bill 902? Seeing none, anyone here for informational purposes only for Senate Bill 902? Seeing none, Senator Henderson, any final comments?
No, thank you, Madam Chairman.
This will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 902. Next up, we'll have Senator Brown. Sorry. Okay. Senator Brown, and that will be Senate Bill 848. Senator, when you're ready, you can proceed.
Platform. Unlike the federal exchange, which imposes user fees on insurers to fund its operation, state-based exchanges have the autonomy to set and collect their own user fees. State-based exchanges also allow states to tailor the operation funding of their exchanges to better meet local needs and preferences, potentially offering advantage in terms of efficiency and responsiveness to state-specific health insurance market dynamics. As of 2025, 19 states and the District of Columbia have state-based marketplaces. 3 states have state-based marketplaces on the federal platform. The remaining states use the federal marketplace. This bill does not set the framework or start a state-based exchange. This only removes our prohibition in current law. I know there are experts here to testify, but I'm happy to try to answer your questions to the best of my ability, and thank you.
Questions for the bill sponsor? Senator McCreary.
Good afternoon. So my very first year in the legislature was in 2012. I was in the House, and I remember when this was put before the voters, basically. So it was Senate sub for Senate Bill 464 that put this, I think it ended up being Prop E. It put it in front of the voters, and 62% of the voters voted in favor of a ban, basically. So I'm just wondering what has changed for the Republican Party or Republican leadership that they now want to undo the vote of the people on this.
Well, I think it's like anything else. That's a good question because there's a lot of things the Republican Party does nowadays that doesn't make sense. But I will defer that question to the experts behind me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, there's, I'm just trying to understand why Republican leadership at the time was wanting to not allow a state-based exchange to happen. Put it to the voters. The voters said they agreed, 62%, and now we're trying to undo that. So I would love somebody to address that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Further questions for the bill sponsor? Seeing none, first up in favor of Senate Bill 848, please come forward at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, my name is Greg Conley. I'm here representing a company called Get Insured. We are in favor of this bill. Prior to working for Get Insured, I was in the cabinet administration in Georgia, where we had a similar ban on state-based exchanges that we repealed and then stood up our own state-based exchange. I think the primary benefits of a state-based exchange to states are, first of all, it gives increased benefits to the state in terms of how to structure its individual health insurance market. So you're kind of bringing regulatory power back inside the state, which includes plan design, network adequacy, things like that. I think the second and sort of the one that typically kind of grabs people's attention is you're also bringing a lot of funding back inside the state of Missouri. So this year, citizens of Missouri are going to pay the federal government about $70 million to run healthcare.gov. The reason those fees are so high for healthcare.gov is because they have a very expensive setup. They pay about $22,000 per person per year. Typically, states can run the same thing as an exchange for approximately a third of that cost. So were to Missouri move forward with a state-based exchange at some point in the future, you could probably run it for somewhere between $20 and $30 million, in which case the state would accrue, $40 to $50 million annually that could be used for whatever priorities the state may have. And so those are kind of the high-level reasons we think this is a good idea, and ultimately, as Senator Brown said, this does not commit the state to a particular framework. This merely repeals the prohibition on a state-based exchange.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for being here today. Next up in favor of Senate Bill 848. Seeing none, anyone here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 848? Seeing none, anyone here for informational purposes only for Senate Bill 848? Seeing none, Senator Brown, any final comments?
Just want to say, Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to present this bill.
Thank you, Senator. And the final bill we'll hear today is my bill, Senate Bill 932, and I'm going to pass this over to the Vice Chair to run the committee.
We will now hear Senate Bill 932. Go ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Acting Madam Chair. For the record, Senator Sandy Crawford, District 28. Thanks for the opportunity to hear Senate Bill 932 this afternoon. So every year, the Division of Work Comp estimates the amount of revenue it will be required to administer the division and to finance the second injury fund. The administrative tax is currently set at 1.5%, and the second injury fund is set at 3%. Senate Bill 932 would change the Division of Work Comp's administrative tax and second injury fund surcharge to allow more flexibility in those adjustments. Currently, the law just allows them to adjust in 0.5% increments, and this is actually a $10 million swing, if you can imagine that, a lot of money. And so Senate Bill 932 will simply change the adjustment increments to from 0.5% to 0.1. And this will be a difference of the tax being changed from $10 million per increment to $1 to $2 million. I believe I have somebody from the department here to answer specific questions if I can't, but I'm happy to try to answer questions.
Any questions for the senator? No, I kind of do. Will this increase or decrease the cost for employers and insurance providers?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part of that.
Would it increase the cost for employers and insurance providers?
Well, we're hoping that it will actually decrease them, or actually maybe more accurate is it will set that fee to what's really needed instead of having extra money sitting there, which is just an extra cost to everybody. Okay. So I think this will still, they can still move up and down, but this will just allow them to move up and down in different increments. And it's also my understanding that they do actuarial studies to see exactly how much money they need as well. But I think this will just provide them with more flexibility.
Okay. Any other questions for the senator? Okay, seeing none, the first witness in the support of this bill.
My name is Mitch Turbrock. I am the legislative liaison from the Missouri Department of Labor. Senate Bill 932 allows the Division of Workers' Compensation to better right-size the taxes they levy for administration of the division and the second injury fund. allowing taxes to be adjusted in increments of 0.1 of a percentage point rather than 0.5 of a percentage point is the difference between the taxes being changed by 1 to 2 million per increment compared to 10 million per increment. Ensuring the department has the most accurate decimal to adjust the tax levied will give the department more flexibility to reduce the tax burden on employers while still collecting the necessary revenue for DWC administration and the second injury fund. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Any questions for this witness? Senator McCreary.
Thank you. So, this to me seems kind of like an internal thing to allow for flexibility for you, but I think ultimately we are here for our constituents. And so will this, if this bill were to go into law, would it have any negative impact on our constituents that are, dealing with the second injury fund payment or any other payments that go to injured workers?
As far as negative impacts, what are you referring to when you say
I just don't want any, I don't
Yeah.
want the fund to run out. I don't want the
Yeah,
fund to be
there's
dangerously
no-
low.
Mhm.
I just don't want to put
Yeah.
our constituents at risk who
Understand.
need these funds to live.
Yeah, understand. So as Senator said, DWC does an actuarial report each year, and that determines how much money we'll need for the SIF, and there will never be a situation where that fund would be underfunded. Additionally, statute allows us to take money from the admin tax to the SIF tax if there was ever a situation where there
Okay.
wasn't.
So whatever we do, our constituents are still taken care of then, it sounds like.
Yes,
All right,
yes.
very good. Thank you.
Any other questions for this witness? Seeing none. Anyone else in support of this bill?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee, and Senator Crawford for that sidewise look you gave me and said, oh my God, what's he going to say? For the record, Steve Hobbs, Missouri Association of Counties, and also the Missouri Association of Counties MAC Trust Workers' Compensation Pool today. We insure over 13,000 lives for county elected officials and county employees. And this is a very common sense change to what the department wants to do. Before we can set our rates, and our mission is to provide the lowest cost workers' compensation with the best care possible for our members. Before we can even set our costs to our counties, one of the first things we have to take into consideration is the administration costs, both from our organization and those mandated by the Department of Labor. And this gives us a lot better tools so they can drill down and make sure that is right-sized. Working with the actuarials, this will be making sure that our members aren't having to pay more for administrative costs than what they need to, but also make sure that they have the sufficient funds to do the job. So I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions for this witness? All right.
Thank you.
Witness in favor.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Alex Tuttle. I'm here on behalf of the Missouri Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I want to thank Senator Crawford for bringing this bill forward, and on behalf of our members, support Senate Bill 932.
Any questions for this witness? All right. Next witness in favor.
Good afternoon, Matthew Smith with Associated Industries of Missouri. Just want to go on record in support of this bill because of the flexibility it does provide to the department and for the savings to businesses. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Next witness in support.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman. Hampton Williams with the Missouri Insurance Coalition, testifying in support. We appreciate the department's commitment to trying to manage its costs. As it's been previously testified, these costs are passed on through the rates that any small business pays. And so every little bit helps for any small business in setting those rates. Thank you.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, next witness in support.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. David Overfelt with the Missouri Retailers and Missouri Grocers Association, and we also support the bill.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, next witness in support. Jeez. Okay. Any witnesses in opposition to this bill? Seeing none, anything else you want to say, Senator? Oh, sorry. Anyone for information purpose? No. Okay. Senator, you.
Excellent job, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes the hearing for Senate Bill 932. We now move to exit committee.
Second.
Okay. All right. We are now adjourned.